Yeah, I'm from Ruatāhuna.
Mm-hmm.
Ruatāhuna is halfway between Rotorua and Wairoa.
Yep.
Oh, yes. I was born in January 25th, 1941.
Right.
And as far as I know, I was brought up by two people, and I thought they were my biological parents, but they were my finite parents. And I do believe that I was led to believe that I was spoilt by my dad, my adopted dad, and by the two of them, because I'm named after my adopted mother, Hariata. And they never called her that when I was around as growing up.
Okay, what did they call her?
They called her Hare.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I didn't link the name to my name. Yes. But I do believe I made about 4 years old. Then I was returned to my biological parents.
Right.
And one day my adopted dad said to me, "Are we going up to see those people up there?" And I said, "Why?" "I don't want to go there." And he said, "Oh, we just want to go and see them. And I want to go and see them to see what they're doing and how they are." And I said, and we went up and I was holding his hand and happy. And you know how you swing the arm,
Yes.
holding on to his hand and swinging. And then we got to the house. That was all right. We were there for a while, and then he rolled 2 shillings under the table. And I knew 2 shillings was a lot of money.
Right.
As young as I am, so I must have been really spoiled.
Right.
Yes. So anyway, he rolled it under the table and the cat went to chase it. And I also went to chase it too, because I knew I could get heaps of lollies for it. And so I got the money, or I was still there with the cat, and then I heard him say, "Oh, I've come to bring this girl back." I said, just those words in Māori, I knew what it meant. And I jumped up and I said, "I'm not staying here. I don't know them." And he said, "It's okay." And he grabbed hold of me and held on to me, and I was really holding on to him. And I said, "But I don't want to stay here. I don't know them." And he said, "It's all right. I won't leave you." And you know, and I was hugging him. And then all of a sudden he rolled another 2 shillings.
Right.
And I went to
look for it.
Yeah, to look for it.
Yeah.
And then by the time I turned around, he had gone.
Wow.
Well, you can imagine what it was like. I just burst out crying and running around looking for him. I knew where we come from, and I looked straight down the road, and I couldn't see him. And I said, you know, as I was crying, I didn't think about him. I was thinking about myself. I didn't think about my adopted dad. And anyway, I couldn't find him. Eventually, I had not quite calmed down, but I had stopped crying, but sobbing and sobbing and hoping that he would come back and collect me. And I said, it didn't happen like that. So I spent the first night still wondering, is he going to come back and pick me up? And then he didn't. And that was the beginning of thinking, why? What did I do wrong? What happened? You know, thinking about on those lines as a little girl. Yeah, because he's the only one that I knew. I didn't know anyone else apart from my adopted mother. But it wasn't to be, and that's the last I saw of him until, I do believe, until I was about 8. And then I heard he was back in the district. I knew my father very well, my adopted dad very well, but I just couldn't recollect my adopted mother. And yet I heard that they both spoiled me. And then when I knew that he was back home, I went looking for him. I knew where he'd be. And when I did find him, I went up to him and I punched him. Why did you leave me behind? I don't like that woman. All of these things come out, and he said to me, because I couldn't look after you. Even that I didn't understand. Why couldn't you look after me? Because I hadn't realised that he had separated from my adopted mother. And that's how it was. And I never forgot that. I never forgot how I returned back to my parents. I said my father was a good man. And being a mother, I think they have to discipline the children. And of course, I always think, she's a horrible woman. Yeah.
But you had lots of brothers and sisters, right?
Yes, I had brothers and sisters, 4 girls and 4 boys in the family. And my mum had another child from her first marriage. And so there was about 9 of us. I said we were closely knitted family. We really looked after one another. The brothers looked after us and we looked after the boys. The only time is when my mother and I don't see eye to eye. Or my mother don't see eye to eye with me. But my father never laid a hand on us, not even on the boys. But he taught. He always taught and told us how to behave. And so I grew up loving my father, my biological father, and also I grew around my adopted dad. Every time I get a hiding, I used to run to him, and he can always tell. And then I spent time with him and his biological children, because he had children by then. And so I grew up around him. So I had 2 families. Yeah. So I grew around 2 families.
And how did that shape your life, having these 2 families and this experience of being kind of split at that young age, very formative age?
Yes. At first it was strange. It was quite strange for me. I couldn't really make out what happened or how it happened, and also what happened to my adopted mother, because I was never told what had happened to my adopted mother. But my adopted dad and his new wife, they were great. They accepted me as part of the family, and so I was lucky to have 2 families, growing up in 2 families.
But they were both in Ruatāhuna.
Yes,
so
they were
close,
both in
they were close to each other.
Yeah, close to each
part
other.
of the same community.
Yes, in the same community, Hariata. And growing up like that, all the time that I've been growing up, I hadn't realised I was visiting my adopted mother too.
Oh, okay.
Because my adopted mother was involved with one of my mother's brothers. And whether they told her not to say anything to me or not, I have no idea. But she never let on that she was my adopted mother. So I grew up like that.
So you just thought she was the auntie?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Because I married my uncle. Yeah, and I said, so I didn't link her as to be my adopted mother. It wasn't until my 15th birthday, and then she gave me a present, and said, oh, here, this is your present. And I looked at it, and it was a beautiful tartan blanket, really, really beautiful. And I said, oh, no, don't give it to me, give it to your muckles. Because I couldn't make out, why is she giving it to me? Yeah, just give it to your muckles, And she said, no, this is your birthday. Even that, when she said this is your birthday, I didn't think to ask the question, how did you know it was my birthday? Or, all those things, because every time I asked my mother, who is my adopted mother? And she always kind of bites and says, what do you want to know?
Mm.
It's none of your business.
Mm.
And so I never asked after that. I tried to make myself invisible so that I don't get a growling. Yeah. And so I didn't know how to ask questions in the end. I stopped asking questions because I thought, well, every time I ask a question and I get a kind of a bite reply. And then, of course, that's when Sister Annie come into the picture. I was doing my growing up days, Sunday school.
Mm.
And we used to come here to the church for Sunday school. That's one thing that our parents always encouraged. You go to the Sunday school, all of you, and be with Sister Annie.
Mm.
But on Saturday is a hapati day for the rinatu. So we go to the hapati on Saturdays. On Sundays we come to the Presbyterian church.
So by that stage, by the mid-1940s,
Yes.
Sister Annie had already been here for
Yes.
some time.
Yes,
She was already very much a part of the
yes,
community, and had
yeah.
an established children's
Yeah.
teaching role.
Yeah,
And so you remember meeting her though when you were
Yes.
that age.
yes, yeah, because coming to Sunday school, and also there was 3 of us that was baptised as Presbyterian. My older brother and a cousin, our older cousin, and then I was the 3rd one. So we were baptised Presbyterians, whereas the others were more or less Israelites. Te Hariata Church. Yeah, and so I knew that I had to attend Presbyterian Church as well. I said, it wasn't only me, but all of us. And that's how we got to know Sister Annie. And she became our nanny, our Pākehā nanny.
Right. Yes.
And we did call her that. That's our Pākehā nanny. And she was good to us. And so that's how I got involved with the church, just attending Sunday school and Bible study, having Bible study. And so the beginning of getting to know who Christ is, and all of the celebrations that we have, Easter, all of those kind of celebrations. So that was the beginning of my walk in the faith I had then.
Do you remember any particular moments that you look back on as being an important time for you of learning or commitment?
I think I learned just by attending Sister Annie's services, and also having, especially Christmas, when we have a big get-together and a celebration, and the majority of Ruatāhuna always comes to support it. All the parents come to support it, and they even bring kai and feed us. And then we used to have those, what do you call them? That you look for a present.
Treasure hunt.
Treasure hunt.
Oh, okay.
And that's what we used to do. And we used to try and find the treasures, and hope to goodness that I do find it. 9 times out of 10 I don't find it. But it was always the bigger children. And so that became a time of knowing that we can all come together as the whole community, and also work together as the whole community. It wasn't just only me from Uwhiare, but it was the whole of Ruatāhuna coming together and celebrating Christmas with Sister Annie. So those were great days for me. Anyway, yeah.
And how did you experience God in that?
I experienced the love that God had. For me, because Sister Annie, being the type of person she is, she's always made sure that we were cared for, and always made sure that the love that we had for one another, we share it with the other children. And it was that kind of thing that made it really good for us. Well, for me anyway.
Do you remember that happiness
Yes,
and that
the
family
happiness,
and
yes,
the
and
joy?
the family, the joy,
God.
and yes, and the playing together, and then sharing. Sometimes we sing those Christmas songs, and we thought we were great just singing the Christmas songs and holding, like merry-go-round, and just holding hands and singing those Christmas hymns, and so just learning about that and learning about God Himself and how Sister Annie always seems to stress the love that God has for you people is the same love that you can have with other people. And so it was really grateful for me to listen to that. And I knew that, God is a bigger person than I think. And it'll be nice to share that love with others. And I don't think I was the only one. I think a lot of us was thinking on those lines because we started to all come together and having Bible studies, and then we can ask questions. And that's the thing, I think, the asking questions with Sister Annie. And she always made time to explain to us. So that became a great time of sharing and learning.
Did you have a picture of Jesus in that? Who?
I think we had, because there were some pictures that Sister Annie had. And so, yes, that's the picture that I could see of Jesus. Oh, okay, he's Jesus. I wasn't thinking about Jesus can be one of my the people I'm playing with. I didn't think like that. I just thought, he's a different person altogether. It wasn't until I started to get to know and grow older, and of course going to Bible camps. We used to have Bible camps at Orbe, and that was during the May holidays. And then we go and share and also link up with the other parishes. And we have competitions, haka competitions, all of those things.
Sport, eh?
Yes.
Sport.
Yes. And so we got to see other children that's doing exactly what we do, and now whānau starts to extend not only from here, but it went out, and so he knew what it was like, to have friends away from us.
And mainly Māori communities,
Yes.
so it felt. You felt affirmed as a Māori young woman. It was you didn't need to be you become something different.
Yes, and because of that, and knowing that they had Māori grandparents and all of that, and so it became a place where a time to look forward to every year while we're still at primary school. And Sister Annie had other things going. She had Girls' Life Brigade going, just for senior girls. So she had all those things going for the bigger girls. And the bigger girls have their own way of doing their own services, and we have our own way of doing our own with Sister Annie. Sister Annie was a person that we did see as a bigger person than we actually realised, didn't realise, the amount of work she had done for our people. And to become a midwife and to travel in the bush to go and deliver a baby. Honestly, we didn't realise just how much she has helped our people.
And in those days, on horseback.
Yes.
She must have been quite a horse rider.
Yes.
Did she own her own horse here somewhere?
She probably did, because I do, we do hear stories that she had, one of the men was down in the bush, and there was one woman having a child, was about ready to give her birth, so he rode up to tell her, you're needed down at Ohio. And, and she just said, all right, just let me get this and let me have a feed before I come with you. And then he waits, and then they go back.
Mm.
And by the time she gets there, she delivers the baby and stay until it's well, and then she can leave them behind. So Sister Annie became like a beacon, I suppose, for all of us. A beacon of hope, a beacon of knowing what's going to happen to us, if anything, and also knowing that we can do better. Yeah, we can do better for our people back here in Ruatāhuna. And it was all those kind of things. So Sister Annie became a name that was always on people's speaking about her and what she was doing. Yeah,
because all of this was in Te Reo. Yeah?
Yes.
Your whole childhood was in Te Reo.
In Te Reo. Everything was in Te Reo, but she still speak English to us.
Did she?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She still, so we became bilingual.
Oh, so she taught you English?
She was a teacher, yes.
Yeah.
She taught us English. Yes.
Wow.
But she could speak Māori too, right?
Yes. She can speak Māori with the old people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she'll hold her own ground with the old people.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that she made a strong impact on the old people because they couldn't get her to sit down as women are supposed to sit down. I didn't come here to talk to you about you men. I come here for the sake of the children and the mothers. You treat them the same way you treat yourselves. And that's exactly what she said on the marae.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the old people were saying, you're a woman. No. I said, no. And she was still to say that. In the end, they gave up because she wouldn't listen.
Oh, she sat down when she finished. Right?
Yes, she sat down when she finished, but she wasn't going to let them walk all over her. I am not here for you. I am here for the mothers and the children. and so they got to learn to love her for who she is and what she is.
Because she wasn't just talk, eh?
No, she wasn't. She was action. She was always active in whatever is going on in the community. And also she was always there when somebody's sick. Yeah. And make sure that either they go to the hospital, because my mother used to have a young sister. We didn't know, actually, to be honest, we didn't know she was our auntie.
Right.
She was white.
Huh?
And I thought, oh, she looks like Sister Annie. It must be a relation of Sister Annie. But she was in a hut not far from our place, and then she got sick. And my mother looked after her, and then she turned around and said to us, oh, here, take these kai for your auntie. And we looked at her and said, auntie? The only auntie we knew was Mona Rini's mother. Right. And he said, yes, she's down there in that hut. I was like, what? Is that our auntie? And she said, that's your auntie. That's the youngest of us. And we didn't know that. Yeah.
So as you experienced prayer and worship, karakia, how was that for you? What do you remember as a teenager, or did you enjoy it, or is it just long and boring?
No, actually, because I remember, as I was learning about the prayers, then I started to pray, little prayers, and I started to pray. And every time I go to Mona Rini's and them's place, and Mona says, keep quiet. Hariata's going to do the prayers for us. Yeah. And so and that's when I started to learn to pray little things, not big things. Just to say, thank you, Lord. In Te Reo. Yeah, in Te Reo. And so it became a part of my life. Just to do that, because Sister Annie said, if you want to talk to God, then talk to God, like how you're talking to me. And I thought, oh, okay. And so that stuck in my head, that I can talk to God.
And did you feel God's presence in a way for you?
At that particular time,
God at all?
I think at that particular time, I was still learning, and perhaps if he was around me, I couldn't feel it because I'm still learning how to deal with prayer and how to deal with the love that I'm surrounded with, and also how to deal because, you know, like I said, I made myself invisible, and how to deal with that. And there are times I just sit still and not say a word. So that became a kind of, what's the word? You just didn't know how to deal with it, how to deal with that. And the part that I think that really hurt me was not knowing who my adopted mother was. Yeah, and I think if I did get to know her, I'm sure that we'd be on good terms. And also, you know, I can listen to her story. I don't think she'll talk about what had happened, but I think she'll be much more closer. Yeah, and I do believe she tried to get close to me, but because I didn't know her, you know, I didn't know how to approach that.
So you're talking about these really deep mamae, this kind of hurts on your spirit as a child with not having that sense that you were fully loved and appreciated in your family and your home in that way, because you're always a bit not quite fitting in and being told to, you know, not ask and shut up. So how did you like unlearn that, or how did you recover from that experience? Because it's a long way from that to being a minister of the gospel.
Yes, I do believe that I started to be more aware of who God is, and I do believe that had a lot to do with it to make me look at it differently and live the life that I should be living, and know that I'm loved by people. Forget about what it was like, but learn to love people as they come to you and as you're supposed to experience a love from someone else. And I'm not saying that my mother didn't love me, but it was hard trying to fit in. My sisters and brothers were good with me. Yeah, it's just trying to fit into the actual whānau. Yeah, and I just didn't know how to fit in and make a difference for myself. Yeah.
Yes, it's like kind of starting in a deficit or a lack, and then maybe, so you're talking about the role that Sister Annie played in helping you feel that you were loved and that you belonged. And you're also talking about like Mona's pushing you forward and giving you that space to have a voice as you were encouraged to lead prayers. And then you're talking about God, experiencing the love of God, and also as you receive, but also learning to give that to other people. And it's like you gain love as you give love.
Yes.
Does that sound like what you're saying?
Yes, it's like that. And then you learn to rise above how you're feeling.
Rise above how you're feeling.
Yeah, to rise above how you're feeling. And know that even though it's hard to try and fit into a puzzle, and try and get which part of the puzzle that you can fit in, there's always a way of really making your own stand and saying, oh no, I belong here, but this is what I'm going to do. And I do believe that my biological father knew that I'm able to get myself out of situations, because he's a man that had a lot of faith, our dad. Yeah, he had a lot of faith, and he always talks to us about things. And there are times, he says some things to me, and I look at him and I think, oh, okay, now you're telling me to do something different. And so he was always encouraging, encouraging me to keep moving ahead and not to stay in a spot.
So what would you say to your mokos or to other young people who are struggling with feeling that they don't fit in, that nobody cares, that are struggling with perhaps trauma from their past? What would you say that you've learnt about how to live past that or live through that?
I do believe that there comes a time when you have to make a decision in your life and say, do I want to be just passive and not try and work things out for yourself? Yeah. And is it right for me to move forward and not feel like I'm not needed? It's a bit hard to try and actually think, but I do believe that if you believe in yourself, you can rise above it and just say, right, I'm going to do this and let me do it. Because, at that time, I didn't know that you can say all those words to God. Help me, I didn't know that. But, as I grow, as I got older, and I thought, wow, I could have said that to him. Can you please help me? Yeah, because I'm struggling, I don't know what to do. Yeah. And the other thing I think that did help me a lot was my big sisters and my brothers. They still, they come around and say, oh, come on, let's go. Yeah. And I was more of a tomboy than I was as a girl. Because my brothers always say, I don't know, you go and get the horse and, to go and cut a tree. It wasn't a big tree, it was just a little tree, because we run out of firewood. And so my young sister and I said, come on then, we go and cut some wood, because the boys weren't at home. They were with our father in the bush. And my mother said, we run out of wood, we can't cook kai. And so we heard that. And I think that's where we were lucky with our dad. He taught us all those things. How to put the collar around the horse and the chains and the sledge, all of those things. And then how to cut a tree, and that's what I didn't know. I thought, oh yeah, I can do that. I can go up to the bush and cut the tree. Like I said, it wasn't even a big tree, but it was a tree. Yeah.
And use the horse to bring it home.
Yeah, and use the horse to bring it home. But we didn't have to use the sledge.
Right.
I knew how to shape it to hold to shape the tree and put the chain around it and then let the horse tow it back home.
Right.
And then when we got home, cut the wood up and take it into the side. And my mum said, where did you get the wood from? Oh, from the bush. We went to cut the tree down. Well, she was dumbstruck. And she looked at us, you too? Yeah, we did it. And she said, wow, for once, I didn't get a growling. She just said, wow. And I thought, oh, once she didn't growl me for taking the horse. One, and she asked everything, and I said, well, Dad showed us what to do. Because we go with him whenever he wants to teach the boys, and there are times we can't go. And so we watched our father teaching the boys.
Yes. And you had your sisters and brothers to help you with that.
Yes.
Well, I think we might pause you there.
Okay.